capable hearing aids, but the batteries have gone.
Oh, wow.
I was on the way here, I heard the sound that the batteries have gone. So I'm back to my old situation, I can't really hear.
Okay.
So one is what's his name, Shama, is he waking people up?
Yeah, he's going around the rooms,
He's working on it.
Yeah, it's a shame.
Good. Okay, so let's make a start. And we're holding in, we're going to be learning, going to get chapter 7, Pasuk Gimel. Chapter Zion, Pasuk Gimel. Oh?
Zion, Pasuk Gimel.
It's okay, you have a Kumashir motion on the table.
Yeah.
166.
Okay.
So, once again, chapter Zion, Pasuk Gimel. And this is where Hashem is telling Moshe once again that he has to go, and this is the actual point of the beginning of the Shlichus. Hashem is actually sending him B'poyo, and Moshe once again says to Hashem that he doesn't have the power of speech to deal with this situation. So Hashem said to him that he will make Aaron the one that will speak. He will be like your Novi, and you'll be like Elohim to him. You'll give him over the divine message, and he will give it over in front of Pare. And then the Eibusha completes this whole giving of the Shlichas B'poyo with the statement to Moshe Rabbeinu, which we're now going to learn, or we're going to read. And he says, Vani aksher eslei paroi. I'm going to make hard the heart of Pare. V'hirbeisi es v'yisoisai v'es moivsai be'eretz Mitzrayim. And I'm going to make many of my signs and my miracles in Eretz Mitzrayim. I'm going to make his heart hard, and that will allow me to, the fact that he will be hard-hearted and he won't be makabel from you, well, that'll make it possible that I'll be able to show a lot of signs and miracles in Mitzrayim. V'lo yishma, and then he goes further. He said, V'lo yishma aleichem Parei, and Parei's not going to listen because I've hardened his heart. V'nosati es yodi b'Mitzrayim, and I'm going to give my hand in Mitzrayim. In other words, I'm going to hit Mitzrayim. How do you call it? I'm going to smote them hard. Yeah, b'Mitzrayim. V'hoitzeisi es tzivoisai es ami b'nei Yisrael be'eretz Mitzrayim, and I'm going to take my hosts which are the people of my people, the sons of Yankov, in other words, the Yidden, Me'eretz Mitzrayim, from the land of Egypt, Shvatim Gedolim, that he called with great judgments, literally, with very heavy-handed judgments. V'yodu Mitzrayim, Pasuk Hey, and he said that even Mitzrayim is going to know, Ki Ani Hashem. Mitzrayim is going to realize that I'm Hashem, bin toisi es yodi al Mitzrayim. V'hoitzeisi es b'nei Yisrael mitecho. So we see then here a few things. First of all, we see that Hashem is going to he's going to harden Pari's heart, and that's going to allow him to make many signs, and that involves Kimuvan, that Pari is not going to listen to what you are going to be saying to him, or what you want, meaning you want to take the Eden out of Mitzrayim. He's not going to listen to that, but I will take them out, and it'll be with many great judgments, and that's going to cause that the Shem Havaya, the Eibishter, how he is, Yud Kei Vav Kei, that will become known even to Mitzrayim. Even the Mitzrayim will know that Ani Havaya. So ask yourself several sort of basic questions in reference to this whole thing. That right before everything begins, Hashem said he's going to harden Pari's heart. Now, that l'chora involves a very basic question, that if Hashem made hard Pari's heart, and that's what caused him not to listen and not to pay attention, and not to react, as we might call it, to the early Makkos. So Im came, what is he to blame? You know, he's like a, how would you say, he's like a
Puppet.
how do you call it, a card in the hands of the Avi. He's just like a puppy, you know, a puppet, I'm sorry, you know, a doll in the hand of Hashem.
Yeah.
That's number one. Number two, I don't know if you guys remember, but way back in Pasha Lech Lecho, Avraham Avinu heard from the Eibishter in what's called the Bris Bein HaBesorim. You know, Avraham Avinu cut 3 calves into half, and he walked between them, and Hashem
Zohar.
What?
could you either decide if you're going to sit in or, you know, moving around the whole time is it's a bit mavulbul.
Sorry.
As so over there in the Bris Bein HaBesorim, the Eibishter told Avraham Avinu that you're going to be enslaved by a certain people, and it's going to be 400 years. Yeah, and at the end of the 400 years, I'm going to judge the people, and then I'm going to take you out. And over there, Rashi says, what does it mean? I'm going to judge these people. So Rashi says, Eser Makois. I'm going to hit them with Eser Makois. If that's the case, l'chora, all this has been decided, kavyohu, beforehand. And it's already known that the Yidden are going to be enslaved or they're going to, it's written the Lashon, they're going to make them work. which would imply, they're going to enslave them in some way or another, and that's going to last 400 years. L'Poel, they were only in Mitzrayim 210 years. So we have to work out how does the 400 get. So Rashi got a whole view how we get 400 years. I'm not going into that right now. However, L'Chera Paroi is only doing what Hashem planned for him anyway. And Hashem's already announced from all 4 clearly that he's going to enslave the Yidden and keep them in Mitzrayim. Is this chappie, is he with us? Are you with us?
Yeah.
I can't sort of see you now.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's better if you can do it that way. It's, so L'Chera asks herself the question that why is Paroi being dealt with in this way? He had to do it anyway. And he's only doing what Hashem has planned for him.
Yeah.
Anyway, it was all agreed on, and on the contrary, some of the great Rishonim bring down that when Yaakov came into Mitzrayim with his sons, most of his close relatives, the sons, they knew that they were going to have to go and spend time in Golus, in Mitzrayim. So when they went into Mitzrayim, they went in a knowing way that there was going to be some form of a Golus there that would take quite an amount of time. And on the contrary, there was a whole thing with Esau. They tried to sort of get Esau dragged in, because he's also a son of Avraham Avinu, a grandson, and they wanted to get him involved, that he should take part of and he got out of it, Esau. He ran away and he didn't want anything to do with it. So the Yidden had to take the whole Gezerah. So both the Yidden knew and Hashem knew that Paroi is going to do this. If that's the case, ask yourself the question, why is he being dealt with in this way? It's hard to call it a punishment, because he had to do it anyway. And on the contrary, Hashem wants it that way. And he told Avraham Avinu and his grandchildren already went down knowing that they're going to have to face what you call the shtar, the IOU, the O-note, they're going to have to face a golus. So ask yourself the very pressing question, why is Paroi, why is it, he's got a sefer, you can keep your sefer. Why is Paroi being dealt with in this way? And we need to, on the basis of that, we need to understand what is like, as it were, what is the nature of the Esamakis. Are they a punishment? And if they're a punishment, as we said, what did he do to earn such a punishment? And why 10 of them, one after the other? Why 10 makis? Give him a slog and do something to him in his country. And with that, you finish it. What's up is 10, one after the other the whole time. And in addition to that, if we'll say that it was in order to not punish Paroi, but it was in order just to make Hashem's existence and his control of the whole Bria in the world, make that a public knowledge, then L'Chera also it could have been done in some other way. Why did it have to go through these very, very severe makos against the Mitzrayim when, like we said before, they had to be, it's going to have to happen anyway. So, those are the main questions. So, let's think about it for a second. We got Paroi, and he's been nigzal, he's been decreed by Hashem that he's going to have to keep the Jewish people, be me'akev otam at least, for X number of years in his country, right?
Uh-huh.
But
Well,
does that involve and does that justify everything that Pari did? Or not? Because if we think about the tremendousness of Golus Mitzrayim, it was really a terrible Golus. I mean, unbelievably so. And it's brought down in Sfarim that it was, in effect, the worst of all the Goliaths, for all sorts of reasons which I'm not going to go into now, but Lapuya was a very, very terrible Golus. And we have to think carefully, what was the nature of this whole thing that Pari enslaved them with Vaera kosher and everything? Was it just purely that he didn't have anybody to build him Pisa in Ramses, and they say that the Yidden maybe built the pyramids, you know, the whole thing. The question is, he didn't have any workforce, he didn't have a, you know, how do you call it, a proletariat or whatever you call it, workers that could have done the job. Why did he enslave the Jewish people to this whole thing? So we have to be mispointed. What was he really after, Pari? What was really the aim of the whole thing? So therefore it's brought down in certain Sfarim that the whole Golas, we're only told in the Pesukim, we're only told the actual, how do you call it, holok yelek of the Golas. We're told the actual physical development of how it worked. But there was a very sinister plan behind the whole Golas and the whole inner of Pari's enslaving the Jewish people. Is he all right this one? Are you okay? Do you have a chumash? Are you following us?
Yes, okay. Thank you.
You have to sit close to the table and hold a chumash. You follow? Is there another chumash available over there?
he has one.
Ariel, be so.
Yes.
Oh, you have a chumash.
Yeah.
Good. So you have to. There's an old clove, and these guys remember from the old yeshiva days that somebody who sits back a little bit, he drops to sleep. So, but those who sit and they're holding on to the table, they stay awake. That's the way it works. And I want you to be awake, not because I want to be a disciplinarian. I want you to be awake to hear what we're talking about. The Mitzrayim, and it's like, it's like the difference between the adult person and the person who's really concerned with a purpose in existence, and the hefkanik, you know. And the hefkanik, you realize what I mean by that, somebody who likes just, you know, he and the earnest person who wants to guide existence in some sort of a direction, they usually never get on. And on the contrary, the hefkanik, and it's brought down in the Gemara, in Masechta Psochim, that in the times of the Gemara, it was very clear the difference between a Amoritz and a Talmud Chacham. And it's brought down that some of the Amoritz were okay. They were, they didn't know very much, because the whole educational medium and everything in those days was not like to be compared to anything to what it's like today. And so they simply didn't know. But there were a whole group of Ami Ha'oretz, and they were maybe the majority, that they didn't know, and they hated those who did know. You know, they hated the Talmidei Chacham. And it's brought down there that there were certain Ami Ha'oretz that if they would have just been left to it, they would have torn Talmidei Chachamim. But physically, they would have done something to them. Yeah, rather fierce. And it's brought down when you get to Rabbi Akiva, before he started his wondrous journey, the Gemara says about him, that he hated Talmidei Chachamim. Yeah, Rabbi Akiva. And he was also in this bunch, that they would have, had they had the opportunity, they would have taken physical action against the Talmidei Chachamim. We see this as a very basic thing, and to this day, you can see it amongst, there's even whole nations that they're not interested, they're just interested in weapons and koyach and evil, and they don't differ, they don't really conduct human affairs on the basis of values or ideas of what's better and higher, just the rule of the Hadikot, of the arm, of a koyach hazroya, it's called in Hebrew. And so they hate, and they even want to destroy, and the whole difference between a Yid and a non-Jew, at least on a very basic level, is that the Yid senses mitzad the nefesh elokiyah. I'm not going into that now in great detail, but a Yid senses mitzad the nefesh elokiyah. He senses that there's something higher and divine in this whole called life in this world. And so a Yid naturally attracts the hate and the opposition or the attempt to sort of pull him down and negate him on the part of the Hefkenik. The Hefkeniks amongst the Goyim, they don't go for the Yidden V'klal. Or, let's put it another way, you can get Goyim that have worked out a whole, shitta, they have a whole political, cultural type shitta, but it involves, hatred. And the hatred usually involves one way or another, the Yidden. And you can see it all over. So that's what was the beginning of this whole spiritual enslavement on the part of the Yidden, on the part of the Mitzrim, of the Yidden, and gradually it developed into, it would appear from many Medrashim, it gradually developed into a methodical shitta to, make Yidden into what the Mitzrim were. In other words, to make them into atheists that hated the idea of, a higher idea, and to build the whole civilization around the tigers and around other things, and just, be matzliach and not to get into trouble, but do what you want. You follow? Uh-huh. That's what they wanted to make out of Yidden. Mm. And so why did it develop that the whole time it kept getting worse? Because they saw that the posse tells us in Shmoyes that as much as they worked the Yidden and as much as they put them to all of it, Cain Yirbev, Cain Yifrit, they multiplied and they spread. And so there's this great foreign which bring that the inner of a Yid is a tremendous action when it comes to his inner message, and he knows that he's got a higher, inner message. Im Cain, he's been absolutely brainwashed by some ism or something. Of a Yid, be'etzem minyonei, the more you will catch him to be a hefkenik, the more he will insist on this unbelievably higher message of the Jewish people, and the higher message of existence, of what it's all about. So that this struggle between Parei and the Yidden kept growing the whole time, until Parei took extreme, action that he wouldn't let them have straw. He wanted them to be just absolutely meshuga, taken up so much with the Gashmias that would affect them, and they would gradually come round to be like him. And he had certain strategic ideas in that as well, as the posse mentions very briefly. So we have this unbelievable, like, warfare, both in Gashmias and in Ruknias, between the koiches of Haper, what Yidden stand for altogether, of them absolutely, and the Yidden in this tremendous clash where Pare has the, he's got the physical hold and the military hold on the upper, and therefore he's enslaving the Yidden, but really what he means is he wants to make him into Mitzrayim.
Yeah.
And you can't do that to a Yid. The more you do that to a Yid, the more he comes out. And so that's exactly the picture that we see that's developing here. So now we understand, and the Vaera talks about this way over in Pasha Lech Lecho, when the Aviston says, they're going to enslave you and everything. So the Vaera Kodesh over there asks the question we're asking, how come if so, why is he being dealt with in this way? He had to do all this anyway, and it had to happen. So the Vaera says, it had to happen. Hashem wanted that the Yidden, for whatever reasons he had in mind for the Yidden, that they should be in Mitzrayim for 400 years or 210 years, the way it was before. But Paroi, he was moisiv, he was mahader in the shlicha much more than what he was meant to, much more than what he was meant to do. And the Vaera Kodesh goes on to add over there, and another place, he says the same thing. It's the same with the main places throughout history where Yidden have been under the heavy shlita of the Goyim, that the Goyim have always done much, much more than what that shlita implies. And he says about the Am HaAravi, he gets the Aracham, does he take it out? Yeah. And it's all like Nevuahs, But the Aracham Kodesh was about 400 years ago, 500 years ago. And he writes all that's going to happen with the Arabs, what the Muslimium, as he calls them, and everything. That's from his Pele. So we see that these people added much more. I feel if we'll say that it was meant to be, they added much more. Evamela, says the Vaera Kodesh, Paroi is punishable for all the additions, and particularly for the spiritual war that he made against Yidden. He wanted to root out the Nefesh Elokis out of Yidden. Well, we can't do that. The Nefesh Elokis is a Chelek Elokah Memayel. So ultimately, Paroi was fighting with Hashem. He was fighting with the divinity that's in every Yid. So Hashem said to him, he's fighting with me. Then let's see who's going to win. Yeah? And so that's the whole picture that it builds up, that I'm going to deal with him in a way that he's really going to realize that. So that's, basically the general picture that I want to give over. But I'm going to give over one or two extra nuances in the whole thing. But in order to do that, everybody's saying, where's the stories? So it's Moitzei Koftar Tevas. So I want to present you guys with a picture. The whole Stalkers Hilula of the Alter Rebbe is connected with Milchemes Napoleon, and it's absolutely integrally linked with the whole, because the Alter Rebbe had to flee, and then he got the chill, and then the snow and the storms prevented them from going further, and they had to go down into the house of the Goy in the little Goyish village, and so there took place the stalkers of the Alter Rebbe. And the truth is that nobody in the entourage of the Alter Rebbe anticipated that there would be a Histolkes. If nobody was ready that was going to happen, only in the last few hours before it occurred, people began to notice that very strange things are happening with the Alter Rebbe. But even those that were with him in the Goyshe house, they didn't think there was going to be a Histolkes, and yet nonetheless, shortly before Chatzot Laila, and was a Motzor Shabbos, he passed away. So, if we examine it very closely, and it's brought down in certain Sforim, the Alter Rebbe was very, very much against